Spider-Man Far From Home is probably the live-action Spider-Man to hit closest to home. That joke's probably already been used, but fuck it. I liked the movie. I thought it was really good. It felt more, well, Spider-Man. Homecoming was trying to differentiate itself from other Spider-Man movies, which kind of meant that it tried to not feel like a Spider-Man movie. This movie continues that trend to differentiate itself, but it's slowly starting to put in elements that make it feel more traditionally Spider-Man, which makes it better, at least in my opinion, which is what this is, my opinion. I don't consider myself a critic, so this isn't like a review or a critique. I just had some straight thoughts about the movie that I wanted to talk about. So, let's talk about Spider-Man Far From Home. I like Tom Holland, man. He's probably the best live-action Spider-Man, or at least the most accurate in a way. It's kind of arguable. I feel like he has the heart and the feel of a proper Spider-Man interpretation, and then was thrust into this Marvel Cinematic Universe. He's criticized by being called Iron Man Jr., but I feel like that's exactly how he'd be handled in this world. In a world of superheroes like this, the top dogs would probably try to find and mentor younger and smaller heroes, excluding the ones from other Marvel shows, I guess. So, yeah, you get a less independent Spider-Man, but it makes at least in-universe logical narrative sense. Which brings us to this movie. If you didn't like the Iron Man Jr. idea of the last film, well, you're in luck, cause he gone. As a result, Spidey is put in a way more independent role now, which feels more accurate to the original character. To save his friends, he's gotta rely on his own wit and resources. Kind of. And at the same time, the movie makes the Iron Man Jr. idea better by having it be a major emotional through line. The relationship between Spider-Man and Iron Man is external and internal. The world is expecting Spider-Man to step up and be the next Iron Man, and Peter is struggling to deal with the death of another father figure. And this makes Mysterio as a whole much more enticing to Peter. The weight of the world can be lifted off Spider-Man's shoulders, and at the same time, Peter can have the comfort of, well, another father figure. So in that way, the betrayal still has impact. Not because it was surprising to anyone, but just because you know what this kid's been through and how it must hurt when the betrayal happens. And, small side note, I saw this movie with a bunch of people who didn't know Mysterio was a villain, and they were legitimately caught off guard by him being a villain. Well, relatively. They all called it as soon as Peter handed him the glasses, but still. It was cool seeing the reactions to the trickery of Mysterio. It's just like I had when I was younger and watched the TV shows. Like, how did he trick him? And then, what really can he do if it's all just illusions? And then that beautiful scene happened. I forget that Mysterio can actually be cool and a genuine threat when used in the right way. Especially in this movie, since he knows Peter's identity and personal problems. He could shove them all at him in a trippy, probably traumatizing experience. And then Peter got hit by that train and I was just like... Also, one of my favorite theater experiences ever was watching this scene. It was when Mysterio had said something like, "If you were better, maybe Tony would still be here," and it was dead silent and you just hear one guy go, "Damn!" Like, it's exactly what we were all thinking, and he just said it out loud. Then the heart and soul of this movie comes out. With Peter talking to Happy, it's just such a nice, heartwarming conversation. And then it comes to a close with a throwback to Iron Man. The relationship between Peter and Tony may not be one you agree with, but you can't deny that it brings so much to this movie. Then there's the big drone fight, which is just another batch of disposable things for the hero to beat up, but it's still neat. The first-person angles of the drone is pretty cool, and Spider-Man using his webs in different ways to take them out was cool. You never really see him using his webs like that much in movies. only in games and shows and comics. So, like, everywhere but the movies. It's a shame, because when used in the right way, his webs are like the coolest things he has. It's ironic that the coolest part of his power set isn't actually a power he has. He also got that cool throwback to Captain America in Endgame, which I think was on purpose. I mean, Peter wasn't there to see it, so it's not like he was emulating it, but it also looked too similar not to be. So, Peter saves his friends and gets the girl, which, by the way, I really like the romance. It didn't seem, like, forced, like they had to be together just because they have the names of these characters. To be honest, since they named her Michelle and not Mary Jane, I thought maybe they wouldn't even do a romance with them, but they did, and it was nice. Zendaya nails the part of this socially awkward girl, and it's cute watching her and Peter awkwardly try to get together the whole movie. The best part of this movie is actually Peter and his life. The biggest thing about Spider-Man is his dual identity. He's got the responsibility to be a hero, but sometimes he just wants to be this normal kid. The first movie just has him super excited to be a hero, so they don't have this dynamic of Peter losing his life to the mask like they should have. But it's all over this movie. Like I said before, it makes him feel like an authentic Spider-Man. Peter's class is my favorite part of the movie. I'm glad they filled it with enjoyable people, because if not, it would be way harder to get invested in Peter's duality. Like, you want to see him just hang out with Ned and MJ and do shit with these people as much as you also want to see cool Spider-Man stuff. At least I did. Like I said, I believe Spider-Man is about Peter's life and the hero work, so both need to be done well, or else it just doesn't feel right. Some people just want the superheroing, but the real life matters too. I mean, come on, you just gotta love the awkward teacher who is like barely in control of his students or his life, paired with a dude who really doesn't give a fuck, being in charge of a bunch of teens. Also, these poor kids just wanted a vacation, and literally every stop turned into a death trap. I know Spider-Man puts people around him in danger, but like, God damn! And on that note, how does no one realize this kid is Spider-Man? It's so frustrating to think about. In comics, it shows you can get away with a suspension of disbelief, I guess, especially with how you set up the situation. But when you see it in real life, you gotta wonder how no one notices. But it's like a weird commentary on the world right now. It's written off as like the kids weren't paying much attention to anything, or you'll probably forget about it in a week. Which I guess is just the world we live in, or maybe the one they live in. It's taken like one step further when MJ figures it out just by paying attention. Like, it's real obvious if you just use your brain, but no one is, or will, so they'll never know. Or I guess they might with the ending of the movie. The Mysterio villain twist wasn't the big surprise of the movie for me, the ending was. Not only is Peter's identity outed, but it was reported by the man, J.K. Simmons, as J. Jonah Jameson. My mouth dropped wide open and just got bigger and bigger as the scene went on. It was crazy. People in my theater were losing their minds and audibly screaming. Then the ending, with the fact that they were Skrulls the whole time. While watching the movie, Fury and Hill felt off, but I didn't actually think it was something like this. You shouldn't be allowed to end the movie with this many twists, especially when I have no idea what's coming next or when. It's just rude. Now I know this whole video has been a collection of my stray thoughts, but here are some actual stray thoughts. Spider-Man swinging through New York at the end brought back a feeling I haven't had since I was a kid, and I watched Tobey Maguire do the same thing. That was like the first time you've seen this Spider-Man really swing through New York, so it was like really cool. I think there was this running thing with Flash's parents not caring about him, which is depressing. I think it's meant to explain why he's so obsessed with attention, but I always liked the idea that Flash's parents were like super nice and he just became a dickhead for no reason. In the MCU, you always have your smart villains, and then you always have your crazy villains. And Jake Gyllenhaal was probably one of the best crazy villains in the MCU. MJ is definitely like 3 inches taller than Peter, but they'll never show it. They use different angles and stuff to their advantage. Then I swear they gave Tom Holland shoes to boost him up when they did shots right next to each other. Also, while editing this, I noticed that there are a lot of things from the trailer that just never made it into the movie. which is a shame because I was really digging that cop scene from the very beginning. But, whatever.